understand something. Plain and simple. To me, Abigail was a delicious poison. An intoxicating, overwhelming poison. Yowie wowie! That felt good! Yowie wowie. Let me in.
What's up, everybody? Thank you for joining us a little bit early this week. A little bit early, but we got a lot to talk about. Yeah, we got a lot to talk about, and we have a special show this evening. As always, though, I've got to bring in the one and only Jodie Gilly, our Abby, your Abby, everyone's Abby, the world's Abby. Jodie Gilly. Jodie, how are you today?
Wonderful.
Good, and wonderful. I,
Sure.
Okay, we'll go with wonderful. We'll stick with
We're gonna go with it.
that. And if you are watching us on YouTube or any of the places that we stream, you will see that there's another square on the screen. And if you read the description or the any of that, then you would know that we have the one and only C Wrestling in the house. C Wrestling UK, what's up?
Hey man, this is so long overdue for me to be on Abby's. Let's not lie.
Yes.
Jodie
Yes.
has been on at me for ages to do Abby's window.
Yes, and I might have thrown in some comments here or there in the DMs.
You have, you have.
Like, hey, dude, what the heck? Come on now, come on. But you're here, so thank you for being here. It's an honor to have you on Abby's with us this week, man.
Hey man, no problem.
Awesome. Well,
We try to have a good time.
we do. So we have a ton of people here right now. I am going to just say hello to everyone because me trying to go back and scroll up and get everyone's name and comment and everything in there right now, it would take about 10 minutes, and I don't want to take up the early time that we were starting the show. So I will say hello to everyone and welcome. Thank you for joining us this evening, and we will get right to it. Jessie Callan, I will call out this comment though. She says, "Oh crap, y'all started all early and crap." And I wasn't ready for that.
Yeah.
It's all good. But we will get started because I know that all of you have come to hear the theories and breakdowns and everything that Jodie and C will be doing. So I definitely want to get to that. So Jodie, where you want to start. So you want to start there?
What, with Caleb?
With Caleb's Corner.
Sure. We'll just do a quick little blurb about Caleb. He did a show in Montana, which was apparently pretty freaking awesome. I've seen some videos from it, and it looks awesome. He's going to be doing a show in Wisconsin at the Prairie Dog Blues Festival on the 30th of July, which I wanted to go to, and then I realized that was SummerSlam. So I was like, well, just kidding. So I will be seeing him in September the next time. So as always, he looked absolutely stunning and delicious. That's all I'm going to go with.
There you go. All right. Well, speaking of stunning.
Yes. And delicious.
And delicious. I can't. Well, no, we'll say delicious. Why not? You found something earlier today. You and your husband Chris found something, and I guess you guys want to start there.
Yeah.
All right, so let's start there. Jodie, I will bring this picture up, and you talk about what we are seeing here on the screen. And don't worry, I have a zoomed-in view.
Awesome. So Chris actually brought this up. He had watched that video that WWE had posted about like the craziest moments or craziest endings to SummerSlam. And obviously the Fiend was in it, and we went back and watched that whole match that he had against Braun Strowman, where he actually won the title back for a week. And we're watching his entrance, and he was like, "Oh, did you see that?" And I was like, "What?" And he kind of rewound it and looked at it, and he was like, I said, "That looks like a number 12." And he goes, "No, it doesn't. It looks like a backwards 6." Which I thought was really, really interesting. And then so we watched the entrance from the pay-per-view the next week when Roman pinned Braun for the title, and it was there again. So obviously, you know, Luke was the first one that I messaged about it. And I was like, "Did you see that?" I sent him the video that I took. And yeah, we were theorizing over that. And I know, didn't you say that you went and watched some other entrances and it wasn't there?
Yeah, I watched like the entrance when he confronted Vince and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing there at all. So it's definitely something that's been imposed onto the image. It's not something that's part of the mask by the looks of it. So
yeah, it's creepy a little bit. Like it definitely looks like it was put there intentionally, because it doesn't look like any of the other. I know it's, you know, that picture is made to be a little bit like scratched up and, you know, vintage, I guess. But that definitely doesn't look like anything else in the picture. And it's a little weird.
Now I've got to ask, how many people caught this the first time? Because the first comment that I made to Jodie was, I never saw this before.
Yeah, that's what Chris said to me when he saw it. He was like, "I didn't catch that the first time around." And it's funny considering how much we've like analyzed pictures, and you know how many times we zoomed in on that painting that Kyle did of the or not the painting, the art that Kyle did of the cabin in the woods, and how much we zoomed in and you know dissected every single part of that picture, but missed this. I'm sure there's, you know, what else are we missing?
it does make you wonder, because if you go back through like the Bray Wyatt story, the Fiend was something that he referenced many, many times. But obviously back in those times, you had no idea that "let me in" would mean something in the future. So it's something you see or something you hear and you just scrape over it, ignore it because it doesn't mean anything. Now it could mean everything. But if it does mean something, did he plan this back in 2020?
I mean, I wouldn't put it past him. I really wouldn't. I mean, you know, you've met him as well, and yeah, I wouldn't put it past him, honestly. I think he may have had this idea, you know, the idea of the Fiend character, you know, when he did The Man in the Woods, which was obviously a long time before that. So I don't know.
I mean, do you think that, I mean, I know, you just brought this up, but do both of you think that maybe he could have been planning this that far back?
Potentially. I mean, you look what happened after SummerSlam. It wasn't too long after he got drafted to Raw. We went straight into that feud with Randy, which then took up his entire time on Raw. And that was it. Then he was released after that. So you got to think that maybe this was him foreshadowing. Maybe he knew back then that, you know, Wyatt 6 would be coming, that the 6th version of Bray Wyatt would be coming, and here's an Easter egg for it.
Yeah. I remember we were talking about this last week, but I remember him saying before that that there was something in the Man in the Woods video that people haven't caught yet. I don't know if anybody's caught it since he said that. I remember him saying that like a year ago, but I've watched that video so many times. So many times, and I'm like, I have no idea what he's talking about, but I'm sure, you know, down the road we'll figure it out and be like, how did we miss that the whole time?
Do you guys think that there's something there? And I don't know if you've caught this, and I know Jody, you said you've gone back and watched several times, but do you think that there's something there that hints to this evolution that hopefully we'll be seeing in the near, not too distant future?
In the Man in the Woods video?
Yeah.
I mean, he makes a lot of references to the Fiend in that video, whether or not at that particular moment he knew that that was a character development he wanted to do or not. Maybe he didn't know exactly how that was going to work, but I mean, the Easter eggs for the Fiend were definitely there.
That's the thing, though. Those Fiend Easter eggs didn't mean anything at the time until we got the Fiend. And until we get whatever the next character is, those Easter eggs probably still don't mean anything. We can watch them a million times. It will only be when we know what that sixth character is that we go, oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. But there's so many references recently to 6. Like, there's 6 light bulbs in that video, and one of them is a circle, and there's just so many little details. And, you know, like C brought up last week when we were talking about the song lyric, even matching things that have happened. And, like, you know, is that coincidental? Was that all intended? Was it, you know, and we all know that Bray is the kind of person that everything means something, even if we don't see it at the time. So, I don't know.
I will say a little side Easter egg for you guys. So, you know the Muscle Man dance where he constantly references to beware of the lizard people?
Yes.
He put out that tweet the other day about going down Devil's Hole, which in mythology has a creature in it called Gauro or something like that. And that is like meant to be this giant lizard creature. And I just wonder if there's an Easter egg there with the whole, you know, lizard people, and you then are going to find a lizard creature.
Yeah. Are we going to get like a, you know, a Windham 6 creature from the Black Lagoon kind of thing?
Maybe.
That would be insane.
That's fascinating.
Well, you think the Fiend is a mythology tale of a man in the woods, like a demonic spirit that lived in the woods. Gauro is a mythology story of this lizard that lives in Devil's Hole. If you can say that Bray was possessed by the Fiend, could he also be possessed by this other creature as well?
Mm-hmm. And, you know, what was the whole point of wanting to go there? Because I know he replied to a couple of people saying that he realized it was dangerous, and that's why he wanted someone local to take him. Like, I wonder if he was scoping it out for filming something.
Potentially.
Like a promo or part of the movie, or I don't know. There's just so much to unpack from those teaser videos, and we haven't seen anything else since that Raw, so I'm wondering if they're going to do something else tonight.
Yeah, I mean, what have you thought about, you know, let me ask both of you. I'll start with you, Jody, and then we'll go to C. What have you thought about how they've done that promo since then, since we saw it at Money in the Bank? And do you think we get another one tonight? Do you think it's just exclusive to Raw?
Well, they didn't show anything on SmackDown. I don't think they even did a replay. So that definitely makes it seem like it's something that's specific for Raw. And, you know, that would be different for Windham, because I think he was on SmackDown. Wasn't he before that? So, and going back and watching how he lost the belt and how he won the belt and what happened after he won the belt from Braun, I remember at the time thinking that this was going to be this monster feud between him and Roman, and I was so excited about it because everybody wanted to see that again. And then it didn't happen, and we were just like, oh, shit. So we're still like, I think we're still hoping for something like that. Like everybody wants to see, the Bray against Roman and getting revenge for that. And, to finish that story with Randy Orton. And, everybody still wants to see the Fiend versus the Demon. And what better way to do that than go up against the Judgment Day and eventually the Bloodline? So it's definitely interesting. He keeps us on our toes.
See, what about you? What about your thoughts on that question?
So I really like the promos. I think they're really well done. If this is Bray Wyatt returning, it's perfect. It's the perfect way to do it. If it's not, this is WWE dangling the carrot. They know exactly what they're doing with these promos. If it's nothing to do with Windham at all, they're doing it geniusly, because we know it's Edge. It's clearly Edge.
Yeah.
But they're making us think more into it. They're putting enough there, so it's not a direct, hey guys, this is Bray, but there's enough there for us to question it, and there's enough where you sit there and go, but this makes sense. And they're making it as cryptic as possible, I think, for that reason. I love how it changed from Money in the Bank to Raw last week.
Which you didn't even notice at first.
No, we was on Discord after I put up things you might have missed and everything like that. We was chatting away. And I got one comment on my video saying there was a green light at the start of the promo that wasn't there on Money in the Bank. So, of course, we went back examining the videos and we're like, well, it's not just there is a green light there and etc. But then there's so much more as well that changed. And we're like, this is a whole different video.
Yeah.
Like, why have they done that? And obviously I'm expecting things to change again this week. And I wonder if they're going to continue it until
just
that first video is gone. Yeah. Just completely revamp the whole thing and make it something different.
Or they could just change more parts of it.
They could, yeah.
Yeah. James, I want to go through a few comments here, if that's okay with you guys. And I know one, and I haven't had C Wrestling's thoughts on this, but I want to get both of your thoughts on this. James Chadwick brought up a little earlier, imagine if we were all duped to think he was released, but actually wasn't, and they planned this all out.
I've always said, and I've said this on Discord a million times, they released him on a Saturday.
Right.
I've been a wrestling fan for a long time. Unless it's like a disciplinary thing, I can't remember them ever releasing people on a Saturday or a Sunday.
And there was nobody else released with him. I know we were talking about that a few days ago on the phone. And yeah, you said nobody was released with him. It was just him. And I don't think they do it all the time. I know people have said that before, but usually they do include their government name.
Yeah. Just FYI, James Chadwick just pointed out that they showed the vignette twice last week. They did, but they actually showed the original Money in the Bank one first, and then the new one with the changes the second time. So it's something they wanted you to know that they were different, but just I personally didn't catch it. No one else that I knew caught it. So
you just did what?
Yeah, what? Oh, okay. No, he said never mind. Who Lennox said never mind his hold. Yeah.
Woo! I was about to have a conniption fit.
I was about to say
change his profile picture again.
Like I was gonna have to bring up a screen during our live discussion here.
I was totally gonna hang up on you guys and make a video. Sorry.
Oh goodness, yeah. Yeah, so you would have been gone real quick, and he would have come back and announced that he had a new video out during the episode. So Hanzo said earlier that he thinks that we'll see something tonight, and I'm trying to go back up to the comment. It's up there quite a bit. You'll definitely see something tonight. I think we'll get more knocking on the door, and Edge opens it. You took your time.
And we were talking about this too. Like, this is not the first time that he's quote unquote disappeared for a while.
Right.
He did this right before the Fiend came back. He was gone for about a year.
Do you know, it does make me wonder if the whole releasing now, I don't think for a moment it's a work. I think it's too long to be a work. I do just wonder, and it's always been the question of, could you imagine if he's just made an agreement where he wanted to film a movie? WWE knew it would take a while. They didn't want to have, WWE association with the movie, maybe for different reasons. But could you imagine if they just let him go to do the movie on the principle that he would return?
I mean, there has to be a reason why he hasn't done any interviews.
Yeah, maybe. I think I was trying to see back. We were talking about this the other day. Karrion Kross. Now he's on the indie scene doing his stuff again, and he's teasing potentially one day going back to WWE. And I think there's a difference with the wrestlers who do come out and they talk their trash, and they know that they're most likely never going to be back in WWE. For someone like Bray, he probably knows that, okay, one day I might want to go back. One day, even if it's in 10 years' time, he might want to do the Hall of Fame or something. And why would you burn that bridge? And maybe that's the reason. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I remember one of the things that he told me when I saw him in March and was talking to him about coming on Abby's, and he just said, well, I have a story to tell. And I'm like, I know, everybody wants to hear it. So he definitely has an idea of what he wants to say.
Well, that's why it's interesting, because we've all agreed that Cult of Wyndham's meant to be a podcast, right?
Yeah, I think Jesse actually did come out and say that, didn't he?
Yeah, and it's never happened. Like, there's no restrictions on him now. It's been a year since his release. You would assume something, maybe, even if it was just a one-off, this is my story, let's monetize the crap out of it. Let's be fair, these people, they're entertainers, but they've got families to feed. And you would expect something like that. That's going to generate a lot of buzz. Why would you not drop that unless there's a reason why, potentially?
Yeah, unless there's some predetermined agreement that, and he's very big on the point of, patience. It's almost time. It's, it's got to be right. It's, it's the right place. It's the right time. And, I think there's probably more to that than meets the eye. Like, maybe there was some predetermined agreement that he would leave, do the movie and then come back.
Well, Jason P says here, this is a question for both of you. Do you think because of Stephanie McMahon, they have signed him back at WrestleMania because he was at the same place? Do you think that because Stephanie is back or someone else is running the show now, do you think that makes a difference in him potentially coming back to WWE?
I do. I think Vince taking a step back, even though technically he's still in charge of creative. I think Stephanie taking over some of those decisions, I think she might be a little bit more likely to be like, we need to get him back. So,
see your thoughts on it. I think those are all fascinating points, Jody.
From what I understand, and I don't know ins and outs, I don't know how it ended at all, but from what I've read in the past, Vince and Bray had a good relationship. There's not many people who can pitch an idea like The Fiend, get it past creative, work on it and push it and get it onto TV. And I think the fact he had a level of creative freedom means that Vince trusted him. I don't know what his relationship with Vince ended up being. None of us do. But I think there was a time when him and Vince were very close, at least at one point. And if it was anything to do with the rumored meetings that happened over WrestleMania, it would have been probably Vince that he met with, because Vince was still in charge.
He was at that particular period of time. Yeah. I don't know. I think it's, like I said, I think with Stephanie in charge, I think it's a little bit more likely that they would reach out to him and bring him back. some creative freedom. I'm sure that's what, as an artist, I'm going to call him an artist because he has a craft. So, an artist like him, the ultimate goal obviously is full creative freedom. And I'm not really sure he's going to get complete freedom anywhere, but it's, but I think WWE may be a little bit more inclined to give him some of that creative freedom back because, I mean, he's been off of TV for over a year, almost a year.
Yeah.
And every single time there's even any hint of him, the internet breaks. So there's no way that WWE doesn't see that he gets people talking. And there's a lot of people that have said, Bray got me back into wrestling. That's why I started watching wrestling. That's why I started watching wrestling, because of that match between him and Matt Hardy. But he's a moneymaker.
I think it's interesting how for a year they've pretty much erased him. And I say this, they gave him the Sasha Banks treatment, which they're giving her now. And then I don't know if you've seen it, but today they posted a video to YouTube. And yes, it was all focused on, the last moments, the closing moments of SummerSlam. And they couldn't just ignore him because obviously Roman attacks him. But there are 3 specific moments in that video where they highlight the Fiend. And they could so easily just edit those parts out so you don't get the close-up of the Fiend. You don't see the Fiend holding the title. You don't see any of that. But they didn't. And I think that's interesting. I think it's so unlike them to backtrack on something they've been doing for so long, and that's erasing him, to now be literally mentioning him all the time. Look at the recent Alexa Bliss interview. They put WWE on Fox, which is a subsidiary of WWE, literally put the Fiend in the title,
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And, his merch has been gone from the WWE shop, and now they're starting to talk about him again. And it's a little baffling because you're like, well, wouldn't you want to sell his? I mean, he's a moneymaker, so wouldn't you want to sell? I would assume that people would still buy merch. Like, I would still buy merch. I'm sure there's some things that Bray stuff that I don't have. You'd think they'd do some kind of sale, or I don't know. I've never really understood that, taking their stuff off of WWE shop if they parted on good terms.
Well, they didn't. It was 4 or 5 months later they removed it all.
Yeah.
So I wonder if there was a working agreement till then, because obviously until then he still had Funko Pops come out. We had the Christmas Fiend, for example. There was Mattel figures still coming out, and it was only around the same date the last figure came out that all the merch went as well. So I do wonder if they had a cutoff date for that.
Maybe.
So I want to ask both of you, because there are people that feel like he is going back to WWE, and then there are people that say there's no way in the world. So I'm going to ask both of you, make a case for both. Make a case for him not going back to WWE, and make a case for him going back.
It's hard to say, just because you don't know how they ended. You don't know what terms they ended on. Was there some bad blood there? He certainly has kind of dispelled some of those rumors that there was bad blood between him and Vince. I'm sure he wasn't totally happy with the direction that they took him towards, the end with Goldberg. But it's, I don't know how much bad blood there is there. I think there's definitely a lot of digging you can do on that promo that would certainly make you think. that he's, I mean, yes, we all know that it's Edge, but here's my point about Edge. He just got repackaged to this dark brood person. What does he need to be repackaged for again? What does he need to be re-promoted for again? And it does seem a little bit too dark for him. Not that he couldn't do it, but as far as what we've seen from Edge in the past, it just feels a little too dark. And with somebody being inside that crypt, it definitely suggests that there's somebody else involved. And so I think there is potentially a lot of hints in that video that hint at Windham coming back. It comes down to whether WWE can admit their mistakes or not, that there were periods that they didn't use him correctly. And I'm not just talking about the Fiend character, just overall. And, you know, the fact that he said to Alexa when he left, keep it going. Yes, that, you know, suggests that, like, keep his vision going, but did he mean that, like, keep it going because I might come back? It just, so I guess that's my case for him going back, that, you know, maybe they realize that they did something stupid and that he's a moneymaker. And, you know, he was, other than Roman, he, at one point, actually, he was the highest merch seller.
Yeah.
So, and then he got overtaken by Roman, but he's always been a good merch seller. And, you know, having, you know, legendary people involved in that, like Tom Savini and Jason Baker. By the way, if you haven't seen The Black Phone, go see it. I still haven't seen it yet. I really want to. But, you know, having legends like that involved in creating this character with him, and having Kyle involved, who's obviously an amazing artist, involved with it. And I think the best place for him would probably be going back. And so I'm more leaning toward, after the promos, like, I'm a little bit more leaning towards maybe he could definitely go back. Reasons why I think maybe he wouldn't is maybe he's moved on. Like, I know he really misses wrestling. He's told me that before, but you know, he really misses being with the fans and being in the ring. And, you know, that's such a big part of who he is. And so I know he really misses that, but, you know, maybe he wants to now focus on other things, like, you know, getting into movies, or not necessarily going the Rock and Cena route, like being exclusive to that kind of stuff. But, you know, maybe he's doing some work on that. Obviously the movie with Jason Baker, and maybe he's just going for a different change of pace for a while. So I don't really know which way it's going to go, but there's definitely hints of him in that video. Like I said, our first thought, you know, Chris came running upstairs after it did, you know, came on Money in the Bank, and he just goes, that was very Bray-ish. So that's my opinion anyway.
Okay. See, before you answer the same questions, Joe has a question. What's up, Joe? Saying why bother? Just wondering why bother with the name change at all if he has intentions of going back to WWE.
Is it a name change though?
It's like, still Wyatt.
Yeah, it's still Wyatt. Is it just the foreshadowing name of the sixth Wyatt is coming?
Because initially he changed his @ symbol to Windham 6. But I think after you get released, they kind of make you take the WWE part off of it.
Yeah.
So the WWE Bray Wyatt is a trademarked thing. So maybe it was just something that he had to do initially. And that's why he changed it to Windham 6, because he was working on this 6 character of Bray Wyatt, and then he changed it to Wyatt 6, and kind of all hell broke loose. So
Just a bit.
Just a little bit.
just a little.
All right. See, same questions. Case for going back and case for not going back.
So I think there is an appetite to see what he can do elsewhere, in my opinion. We've never known Bray Wyatt away from WWE. He wasn't an indie guy. He hasn't wrestled around the world and all that stuff. I think it will be interesting to see him with fresh faces to face, because let's be honest, the WWE top tier talent hasn't changed in the last 5 years, really. Apart from like Cody Rhodes coming in, stuff like that, it really hasn't changed. And I think there will be an appetite to see that. I think the problem with that is, where do you do it? I know, Jeff, I know you're a huge, you love the idea of him going to Impact. I think he'd thrive in Impact Wrestling.
Yeah.
However, the budget of Impact Wrestling is much lower than WWE and AEW. And you've got to think that if you're being offered a tenth of the money you'd be earning somewhere else, are you interested? I don't know. I don't know how he works financially. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
In AEW, they've got such a stacked roster, and I think it's so easy for someone new to come in, take the world by storm, and then literally fizzle out over time. And I only saw this tweet the other day, and it just blew my mind, that it has been over a year since Malachi Black has been in AEW. And I just sit there and I think, in a year, what have you accomplished? What have you done? The Cody feud was great. The House of Black, the idea of it is great. But when you watch them on Dynamite get 30-second promos, you can have all the creative freedom in the world, but if you don't get time on the show, what do you do? And I think there's something where AEW needs to just say, we need to separate a little bit of time to tell a story that's not wrestling. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I think maybe he could be an advocate for that, where they make that change. But I have a horrible fear that if he did, that they would just continue with the same model, and here's 30 seconds. And the one thing I think we all love about Windham in wrestling is the way he tells a story, the promos, and how he delivers that. And from what I've seen so far in AEW, I wouldn't be confident that they could do that justice.
Yeah. Yeah. And, I 100% agree with that. Like, yeah, he would be the shiny new toy. And, that'd be great for a little while. And then I think he would end up disappearing into the mid card, like, because AEW, they're not great at dark characters, which is fine. That's it's just not something that they really, I don't feel like they really invest time in that darker character storytelling. And I think Bray's so good at that, it just wouldn't, I don't think he would fit there.
Yeah. I mean, if we're saying, I know if we're saying that it might not be a good fit in AEW from a roster, standpoint, and what we've seen them do with certain characters, and the possibility of him not going back to WWE, what realistically, what do you think could be next? If it's, wrestling wise, obviously we know about the movie and everything else, but if he's intent upon wrestling, again, what do you think is a realistic expectation of what he may do?
Is CYN possible?
I think it is. I want you to elaborate a little bit more on what you feel about CYN, though.
I haven't watched any of their shows since they've started it as a proper company, doing an actual thing. I've watched the stuff they did on Fight with, like, the Braun story and stuff like that, where they would tell a story of someone changing their character after WWE. I like that. I haven't seen any more, so I can't comment on the actual wrestling shows. Again, I don't see them paying the same as like a WWE or an AEW salary, but I think for a level of introducing your character, a level of having fun, and probably being with friends, I think CYN could be an option.
Jodie.
Yeah. I think what Control Your Narrative has been doing has been great, especially, like the Braun story and all of that. It's, I think financially, which obviously it's not all about financials, but he has a family and he's planning a wedding and all of that stuff. So I think if WWE, just based on what I know of him, I think if WWE offered him the right money and the right level of creative freedom, I think he would go back. I think with AEW, they'd have to offer him a shit ton of money to get him to go there, just because they don't really do the dark storytelling that he's so good at.
I will say, when he got released, it wasn't too long before that he actually re-signed with WWE, was it?
No.
So I assume it's the size of the contract they had an issue. I don't know what the reason he left was, obviously, but I'm assuming he was happy there because he chose at the time to re-sign a contract.
I think it was like 3 months before he got released that he
Something
re-signed
like that, yeah.
So what changed in 3 months?
Wow.
I can't imagine, the relationship between him and WWE fell apart that much and that he left on bad blood. Like you said, obviously he chose to renew his contract, so he was to a certain extent happy there.
I think one of the problems with WWE's model is they have so many cooks in the kitchen. Like, you got Vince, obviously top of creative, but then you have everyone else underneath Vince. And I know when his tweet before, he alluded to Bruce Pritchard and John Laurinaitis being an issue. And I wonder that you're not going to find people that like this level of storytelling and this kind of character all the time. So I wonder if they were dead against the Fiend's push, dead against the Fiend being this kind of character, dedicating this much time of the show to him. And I wonder if that was an issue going forward. I don't know.
Do you think that some of the old guard like that saw that as people that are huge Undertaker fans don't take this the wrong way, but do you think that they saw that as maybe like a challenge to such an iconic character that maybe he could get that big?
I don't think anybody can take the place of the Undertaker. He was so special. And I think for Undertaker, it was the right time. It was the right environment. There's, other than him obviously being a phenomenal character, there were other factors involved there too that allowed for him to get to the legend that he is. And people still love him. So, and I don't feel like he's ripped him off in any particular way. I think there's a lot of, not similarities, but he's already said that he drew inspiration from characters like that. So, people do that all the time. Caleb draws inspiration from rock bands and that he grew up listening to, and it's everybody draws inspiration from somebody. And I don't think people should hold that against Windham. And it doesn't mean that he has to be he's going to be an icon. He's going to be a Hall of Famer and an icon no matter what, because he was always one of those people that was, willing to change his character and adapt. And, everybody that has ever done an interview about him has always said that about him, that he's real, he's adaptable. He just kind of, he has what he wants, the wants that he wants to do, but he gives 1,000,000% to his character, and that's what we love about him.
See, I'd like to get your thoughts on that too.
I'll just point out, Big Dan just put into the chat about that Taker thing. So Taker actually was it WrestleMania? He did a fan interview thing, and he was very hopeful that WWE and Windham could work it out. And I don't believe for a moment he ripped off the Undertaker. I think Undertaker, I'll be honest, is a bigger name. I think the Fiend would have got there eventually. Obviously, the Fiend was only around for a number of years, so it didn't really have the longevity of Taker. But I think for the modern era, he was the modern Undertaker. He was someone who, when he made his entrance, it was iconic. You knew something big. You could feel it in the audiences. Like, I remember TLC when he was just Bray Wyatt face The Miz. And I remember him stand on the apron, and everyone, you see this crowd, and there's old people, young people, children, men, women, everything, all standing there chanting "Yowie Wowie." Like, how Bray Wyatt gets a thing of "Yowie Wowie" over is ridiculous. You know what I mean?
I mean, my kids, before they got into wrestling, they loved saying "Yowie Wowie," and they love wearing the mask and doing all that stuff. So the fact that you can get that from that, is just tremendous to get that over and to get, a character over like this. So I have a question for, I'm going to start with C on this one. What do you think is one thing in terms of the Fiend that, do you think that there were different things they could have done with the Fiend to make that character even more over than what it was with other fans, like with your other fans, not your hardcore fans, but with your other fans, your casual fans?
So I think the Fiend character was a victim of the pandemic. I think the pandemic, no one saw it coming. I remember, obviously, back in January, we heard of this thing happening in China, and it was just, it's in China. And then very quickly, it's like all over the world, we're all locked in our houses, everything changed. And I think if you remove the pandemic as a complete thing, I think the Fiend's character would have excelled. Taking away the fans really hurt the Fiend, without a doubt. And then not only taking away the fans, but just like the creativity. So the loss to Goldberg was a bad thing. We all hated it, but it would have corrected itself at WrestleMania had Bray Wyatt pinned John Cena in a WrestleMania ring. Like, the ovation that would have been the cure for what happened with Goldberg. Mm-hmm. It never happened because of the pandemic. And I think those kind of things just knock the character more and more and more, to the point where we just sit there as fans and go, oh man, they're messing this up, aren't they? And I hate to say that, because I think it's the most creative thing they've done in a long time. But I think they of course they could have done more. I don't know what that could have been, but yeah, of course they could have done more.
Jodie.
Yeah, I think the pandemic was a little bit of both for him. Obviously, that, not having the fans around benefited the character in the way that the cinematic things happened. I mean, that
but they also damaged the character.
They did. They did. I think it was a little bit of both.
Without the audience doing the whole cheering thing, you had people like Meltzer on Twitter saying this sucks, and people believe them because there isn't an audience there cheering. Like, look at Alexa Bliss. Bliss was booed or hated online. Everyone thought the fans would hate her. She gets some of the biggest ovations of the week, and now those critics have to shut up because it proves their point is invalid.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it definitely did some damage. And Bray was always one of those people that he feeds off of the fans.
Yeah.
He enjoys that. He, out of almost any famous person I've ever met, I think he enjoys being around the fans and with the fans more than anybody else I've ever met. Like, he just loves it. Like, he feeds off of it. It gives him energy. It drives that passion for him. So yeah, it did impact that character in a negative way, but there were some positives in there too, like being able to do those cinematic things. So I think it was a little bit of both, but I know that was the part that he missed the most was being with the fans.
It must be quite a strange thing because we all know that Bray is like a cult horror movie guy. He loves that kind of thing. So to have like a cult following of his own must be quite strange because you're part of all these other fandoms, and then you realize that actually you're like the head of a fandom as well. Like you've got all these people that just listen to anywhere. He could literally tweet out, "Hello," and the world right he could tweet out right now and the world would be like, "Oh my god, he's on Raw tonight," you know. Raw ratings would probably double, the world would go nuts, you know what I mean? And it's just
and that he does. Like he's said little random things like that, and it's just every time he says anything, it breaks the internet.
Yeah.
So, Ray, if you're watching, just please tweet the word hello and prove a point.
Just tweet hello.
That'd be funny.
Hanzo has a question for you too. What's up, Wrestling Lane? Saying if the crowd was there, the Firefly Funhouse match, would it have worked live, jumping from each moment to moment, or just keep it cinematic?
We would have never got it.
Mm-mm.
Would have never have gotten it.
I don't think that cinematic match would have worked with fans, and that's why I say there's a little bit of a positive too, that you know that match was so iconic. Like it may be one of my all-time favorite Bray Wyatt matches because the cinematic element just, I mean, he carried, as far as cinematics go, like he carried WWE through that pandemic. And, you know, I guess you could have done something similar like they did with the House of Horrors match, that it started away. And then came into the ring. I guess they could have done something like that. But no, I don't think it would have worked had the fans been there. I think they would have had to do something else.
Yeah. Mark saying, curious, if he does come back, would he still be the Fiend, or would they call him something else?
I think it would be something else. It would be that sixth evolution of Bray Wyatt.
See, what are your thoughts on that?
I agree. I think distancing from the Fiend character after everything that happened would probably be the best thing for everyone.
Gotcha. Erase Your Mind saying they needed to allow the Fiend to be more digestible for the casual fan. WWE have made it clear about the changes in which the Fiend was causing to his victims, a pinpoint moment of change.
I think they moved away from that too quickly. You know, in the beginning when he was just attacking people randomly and then they change afterwards, I think they moved away from that too quickly. I think they could have really used that a lot longer. And that was fun. Like, you never knew when he was going to show up and attack somebody. It was great. Those were some of my favorite moments of all of that, you know. And then he had the pictures up in the fun house. Like, it just, those were some of my favorite moments. You never knew who he was going to show up attacking. And I think that's what kept his character looking indestructible, because he just went after anybody. He was fueled by rage. And I loved it.
I've spoken to you a lot about this, Jodie. I've always said since 2019, I think what they should have done is slow down with the Fiend. Instead of going, full throttle, his feud after feud after feud, you should have slowed down. Let him have his match with Balor and then take him away for a month. And then bring him back, and now you're facing Seth. And I think there was this thing where at the start it was completely random, attacking legends completely at random. We always look for him to attack with people like The Undertaker and Stone Cold and all these different things that never happened. But if you would have slowed him down, even offer him a role on creative for the weeks that he's not on TV, you know, find a way for him to release those creative juices, you know, and just sort of help the rest of the roster at the same time as having this character, maybe that's a part-time character that you just randomly watching a Raw and, oh my God, it's the Fiend, or oh my God, there's a Funhouse, rather than it be expected each week, you know?
Yeah.
Wow. It's yeah.
So, see, what are you going back to the beginning? I haven't had a chance to ask you this, and I know Jodie's gone back and rewatched some stuff. What do you think is something that a lot of people miss upon watching the Funhouse episodes or seeing different segments upon first watch that you've kind of noticed and picked up upon your review?
Bray Wyatt lies. I think this is the one thing that I've always looked at the Funhouse. He always lies. Everything. So he'll say something like, he'll cut up the cult leader Bray, for example, and he'll say to us he's never turned into that fat slob loser ever again, and then eventually turn into cult leader Bray again. Mm-hmm. Things he said in the Funhouse, if you go back and watch the whole thing, and obviously not just the first original episodes as well, just all of it, there are moments he'll say something and then do the opposite. And I've always wondered if that's an indication of maybe this being a work, because he acknowledged the insiders on Twitter and responded to you and said that he kind of foretold his release. Mm-hmm. Well, if you foretold your release, then why would you also say you're coming back? And I think there's something there. One of them was a lie. One of them has to be a lie, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, that's... If he kind of saw the writing on the wall, then why would he put that in the last episode that he would be back? That's definitely an interesting take on it. And I don't know. It either means that he didn't know about his release or that he did, but knew he would come back.
But there were reports out there. Obviously, not long after that, his entire family pretty much got released. Was it Bo, his dad, and Jojo all got released at the same time? He wasn't a part of that, but there was rumors out there that because he was on the injury shelf, they couldn't release him at the time. Maybe that's the reason it took so long to actually get the release. I don't know, but...
Interesting. Big Dan saying, what if Windham came back as a completely different gimmick, maybe some kind of biker gimmick or a character like his dad's old Michael Wall Street gimmick with a name like Easy Money as crypto satire?
I don't know. He's so good at that, like, leader, cult leader, eater of world. I don't know. Like, I just couldn't see him doing anything that wasn't kind of dark. Like, even cult leader Bray was kind of dark. I just couldn't see him coming back. I just couldn't see him coming back without having some kind of darkness to his character.
So
even with the Funhouse stuff, like, yeah, it was funny, and that was the funny side and the goofy side, but it still had a dark side.
Could you see him doing something like that? I agree with Jodie. I think it has to be something along those lines, but could you see him doing something like that?
I gotta say, I agree with Jodie. I think, yes, he probably could. Of course he could. But I think he knows what he's created already is good. And whether he goes to WWE, AEW, or anywhere else, having that sinisterness to him is what makes him stand out from everybody else.
Yeah. He's very special. He's, as iconic as those other characters are, like Undertaker and Triple H, and, Bray is special. He's got something that a lot of people don't. And he's definitely missed in the ring. There's definitely a big void without him being on WWE and being on TV.
I'll always say this. I mean, look at all the release names over the past few years. There's been a hell of a lot of them. Out of all of them, the one that still trends pretty much weekly at this point, the one that still draws people in, the one that people are still talking about is Bray Wyatt.
Yeah. And I don't really foresee that ever changing. I think Bray has such a dedicated fan base that we'll keep fighting for it until he ends up back on TV somewhere.
We used to have the saying, what was it? Fireflies burn. Mm-hmm. We don't just sit down, we burn.
That's right.
Yep. It's, you know, we'll always be behind him no matter what. That's part of being a Firefly. And I love that caught on early on with the fans being called the Fireflies, because it just fits. It's beautiful. And you know, him being as nice as he is and his giving to the fans as he is just makes that even more special. You know, he replied to me on Twitter and said, you know, when I said he saved my life, and he said, you guys saved mine. Like, it's a give and take. And it really feels like, as a fan, you know, that you have built a friendship with him. And even if you have or haven't, but you definitely feel connected to him in a way that I don't think a lot of fans feel connected to, you know, Roman, or, you know what I mean? It's just a different relationship that is really, really special to all of us.
I think the difference with him and other people is you can legitimately tell he cares.
Yeah.
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 Absolutely. Wrestling Lane says, let's say Edge is behind the teaser and then he brings in Bray, and slowly over time Bray turns on him and goes on his own. Would that be a good storyline?
I could see it being the other way around. I think Edge turns on him.
Makes sense. Huh? I don't think them two together for long would work. I think if this is something to do with Bray, then yeah, them as a team for a while would be great. But I don't think just putting them as a tag team and that being it, I don't think that would satisfy people. I think you have to have that evolution, and whether it's him turning on Edge or Edge turning on him would just make sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think that I'm totally in agreement with that. If he comes back with Edge and they form this little team for a little while, that's great. But Bray is so good on his own that I think the natural progression of that, it would be to separate from him. And, you know, maybe it's after they go after the bloodline together, and then we get Bray versus Roman. I mean, he did say that he was going to burn Rome to ashes. So
yeah, he said we are going to burn. Yes,
he said we are going to burn Rome to ashes.
So we got 9 minutes left. I want to say this, and then I have a question, because David asked a question, and I'm going to throw out this hypothetical to Jodie and see on the fly, and we'll get to see their live thoughts here. So this will kind of be fun for me too. All right, 7:00. Go over to B Tazzy's channel. He has a new show that's debuting tonight. Go over there. If you haven't subscribed, go subscribe. Also, if you are new to our channel, please consider subscribing. As of last check, we are, and I want to check this in real time, we are 6 away. So go figure, 6. We're talking about, we're 6 away from 3,000 right now. So just go figure.
Oh, that's ironic.
It is very ironic. So based on David's question, I want to throw this out, because we talked about WWE, but I want to talk about this from a bigger standpoint. So you have a wrestling company, Jodie and C. Both of you own your own wrestling promotion. I want both of you individually to book a Windham / Bray, whatever you want to debut him as. I want you to book his return, and I'll start with Jodie.
I think you have him pop up out of nowhere. Like, go for that element of surprise. Like, yeah, everybody is digging into these videos and these promos that they're releasing, but even after that, like, I still wouldn't hint a lot more about him coming back. I think you just have him pop up out of nowhere, kind of like he did with the Funhouse. He just walked into the Funhouse, was like, "Did you miss me?" And I would just go for that element of surprise, because he loves that genuine reaction, which is, I think, part of the reason why he doesn't tell me a lot of stuff, because he loves getting that fan's genuine reaction. So, like, genuine reaction. So I would definitely get the element of surprise, and like the internet would break if all of a sudden he just popped up out of nowhere. Like, I don't even know how I would do that. Just have him, like, I don't know, come out after, have him enter the Royal Rumble. And everybody be sitting there going,
I'd hate that, because we wouldn't know if he's back as a one-time legend sort of appearance thing that they do, or if he's back full-time. We'd have no idea.
Well, that's the good part, because then you're going to be like, that's exactly what we're going to be saying. Like, oh, is this just a one-off, or is he like coming back? Like, and it would just get the internet talking again, and, Twitter would explode, and then the theories would start again. Like, is he back for real? Is he just back for the Rumble? Like, maybe have him come in and win the Rumble. That might dispel some of the rumors, I guess.
Yeah, that would.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think you just have him pop up out of nowhere. And if he comes back, as part of this Edge deal, I think the natural feud there, obviously against Judgment Day, but the natural feud there is going to be against the Bloodline. They have so much history. Bray and Roman have so much history that you have to go down that road at some point. He technically didn't lose the belt to Roman because he didn't get pinned. Braun did. So I would really delve deeper into that story. That, like, you didn't take the belt from me. You took it from Braun. So, I mean, Braun didn't have the belt, but, like, you didn't pin me to get that championship. If you want. So, yeah.
And there's also that he put out a tweet a while ago, didn't he? Or responded to someone saying, "Take my name off that list," because obviously, Roman didn't pin him. If he wasn't going back, why would you care?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, book a wrestling return for Bray.
Do you know what? If I had to book it, I'd do exactly what these promos are currently doing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if they're for Bray Wyatt. I've got no idea. I know they're 100% for Edge, but I don't know if Bray's related to them. And I would do the exact same thing, because it's genius. If you tell people for months, here's Edge is coming, this is a new promo for Edge, and then it results in actually the whole time they were building up 2 returns, and one of them you didn't see coming at all. It's genius. Like, I look at YouTube views a lot, being a YouTuber, and WWE's posting of that video from Monday Night Raw got 1.5 million views. It's easily the most viewed video coming out of Raw last week, over everything else on the show. And I think just for a 30-second promo, that's so impressive. And it gets people talking. It gets people, like, people on the internet will tell you that this stuff doesn't work. It really does. Getting people talking and guessing is exactly what wrestling should be about.
100% agree. Before we go, see wrestling. Alicia P wants to know: have you recovered from last week with your live?
Pretty much. Pretty much.
Oh.
Oh.
I will never be the same again, let's be honest.
Oh my goodness, that's funny. That's funny.
I just wanted to lose something. When I came onto the Insider stream during Money in the Bank, Money in the Bank, was it Joe? The first thing I heard as I clicked the stream on YouTube was Joe say, "Did C Wrestling write this pay-per-view?" Like, because you had the win, the winning Money in the Bank, the package, the classic promo. Oh, it was heaven for me.
Yeah, it was.
Oh my goodness. So apparently while we've been talking, we hit 3K.
Awesome.
Thank you. So that's awesome. So thank all of you for subscribing, everyone who's been rocking with us from day one. We appreciate it. And all of the newcomers, we appreciate you, and we hope to continue growing. So this is awesome. Thank you, all of you, so much. All right, before we go, parting words from we'll start with C and then we'll end up with Abby.
Watch that promo tonight. If they do another one tonight, see if there's anything new. Because all it takes is 1 second, one split second of one image or one noise. And that could be the indication you might be looking for.
Yeah.
Jodie, any parting words?
Definitely pay attention to Raw tonight. If we get another promo or a change to the one from last week. I always like to end with Windham, you know we love you. We're always going to be here for you. And Caleb is sexy. That's all I'm going to go with.
And to bring this back to Windham, life is a circle. So just the show was a circle. We started there. Everything is a circle. We started there with what was the word that you used?
Delicious.
Okay. So we started with that, and
I will get his. I'm gonna get his painting delivered this week. Scott messaged me earlier today and double checked my address because he's gonna be mailing it out. So I'll get to give that to Caleb in September.
Awesome stuff. Well, we're at 7, so folks, go over and see Tazzy's channel. C and Jodie, this was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun to have you two do this live, and hopefully this happens again. Thank you so much, C Wrestling, for coming on and doing this. We greatly appreciate it.
That's fine. You've just taken my time from sleeping pre-Raw, that's all.
Sleep's overrated.
Sleep's overrated. So I know we've got a few people that are saying that you should say something before we go. See, either peace or puppet watch. So we're gonna end the show that way. Hopefully, see, we'll turn it over to you, and then and then we'll go.
Okay. I can't say puppet watch because there isn't a puppet. So I have to just end it with peace.
Thanks for tuning in, everyone. We will see you next time on another episode of Abby's Window. Take care, everyone.
La, 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 la.